Hello, this is Dean Radin, and I'm on Your Superior Self.
Hi, I'm Anita Murjani, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hello, this is Dr. Raymond Moody, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, Cultural Creatives. I'm Bruce Lipton, and I'm here to join you with Your Superior Self.
Hi, this is Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
What's up, everybody? I'm Aubrey Marcus, and this is Your Superior Self.
Hi, namaste. This is Julie Lusk, and this is your supreme superior self.
Either way, it's Julie Lusk joining the show. Julie, thank you so much for joining. I can't wait to have a conversation with you about consciousness, meditation, intuition, relationships, all of that good stuff.
Let's see where we go.
How'd you get into this? Like, what is your background?
Oh, my background, I'm old. I've been around a while. And so really it goes back to the 70s when I was graduating college, and my first job was in a very small coal mining town in West Virginia. Nothing to do, really. I literally would watch the train go by for entertainment. I really would do that. But there was a community college, and at that community college, they were teaching continuing education course in yoga and meditation. And so that's where my journey began. And it turned out that the teacher was from India. And I fell in love with it. I found it helped me and the people that were around me. The following year, I moved to another smaller, well, it was a little bigger place, and looking for more yoga, more meditation, and there wasn't any. I mean, back in those days, there were very few yoga books available. This was in the days of cassette tapes before VHS. And so I was asked if I would teach, and I wanted the community spirit. And so I thought, well, why not? And so I taught while I was in graduate school and got jobs working in colleges and universities and medical centers. And all along, I continued to teach and learn and practice yoga to begin with, and then more meditation all along. And the stream underneath all of it was I saw and felt the need for stress relief and relaxation training and all that entailed. And so I just kept learning and being with it. And here I am all these years later with the ability and the opportunity to be able to share these kinds of things with other people. And it's been a wonderful journey.
I love it. Beautiful. So my meditation is just all over the place. So I'll get up early and I'll meditate. And I just started practicing TM, transcendental meditation. Can you explain to people what that is?
Well, that's a big question, Trey. Transcendental meditation is a form of meditation that uses a mantra, uses a syllable that people repeat in order to experience shifts in consciousness to help with not just meditation, but focus and concentration and all the benefits that come from it.
You did fine. What are you talking about? Big question.
Well, good.
You did great.
Well, there's meditation, the umbrella.
Yeah.
And then one of the techniques that can be used is transcendental meditation.
Well, what's your favorite technique for meditation?
Mine is Yoga Nidra. And I think there's as many ways of meditating as there are people. We all have our temperaments. We all have our preferences. We go through life stages, and different things help us at different places. Some of us are more visual. Some of us are more auditory. Some of us are more heart-centered or feeling-centered. And as we say in the meditation and yoga world, the easy path is hard enough. And so choose a technique that fits you and your temperament and your thing. And the reason why I like Yoga Nidra is because it is a 6-stage process that is done lying down. This is a type of meditation that's done lying down rather than sitting primarily, even though it can be done sitting up. It sure can. But it's a joyful meditation technique that starts with layer after layer of relaxation that naturally takes you into that meditation state without even having to try. And so we start off like relaxation is the destination. Well, let's put it this way. Relaxation is more the road, but not the destination. The destination is that timeless, spacious kind of place. So people are all geared up. So it starts with relaxing physically. There's lots of techniques that can be done to help people rid themselves of physical tension. And then when that happens, you just get this solid, heavy feeling like, oh, I don't have to prop myself up. I'm supported. And then from there, we calm the static through our energy. And that's usually done with breathing or working with the chakras. And when that happens, sense of stillness starts to happen. And then from there, there's mental and emotional components that can then be, there's lots of techniques that can be used, Trey. So it could be mindfulness or guided imagery or the paradox of opposites or mantra like is used in transcendental meditation. And when we reach that stage, none of that, all the thoughts and feelings and physical tension aren't weighing you down. So there's this very floaty, buoyant, light feeling that happens. And from there, when those kinds of things aren't have settled and rebalanced, then our natural intuition can flourish, and it leaves us in this timeless, spacious place. And I love that you're using the superior self, because the whole concept behind yoga and Yoga Nidra is that each and every one of us, everyone, has a place within that is untarnished. It is unconditionally peaceful and joyful. That's timeless and spacious. And the job of this technique and others too, but especially this one, is to reveal that, is to bring it out. It's just dormant in so many of us. And so it's really enjoyable and fruitful.
Yeah, I've tapped into something with TM, right? Like I'll find like a chant, right? Like that has no meaning to me, but it allows me to clear my mind. And it's weird, man. Like I feel like as soon as I get into that place where I can feel the thoughts leave, like I imagine myself holding a weight and all of a sudden it's pulling me down, like pulling me down into consciousness, and like I keep going, and then it's like, but then I realize I'm going down, and I wake, like kind of like it pulls me back to it's I'm still learning, right? Like I've done some hemisync work. I don't know if you're familiar with that, with Robert Monroe and hemisync, and I've been rereading Ram Dass's stuff.
I love Ram Dass's things. I've had the opportunity to meet and study with him over the years.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So what was he like in person?
He was very endearing and warm and funny and brilliant and smart and inspiring.
How'd you meet him?
And more through Be Here Now, his initial book. And so that was one of the first books that I read and was turned on to. And what happened is I fell in love with it and started, right from the get-go. And I gave a copy of it to my younger brother, who is only 11 and a half months younger than me. And he fell in love with it. And he was living in California at the time and went to a Ram Dass lecture. And afterwards, he's like, oh, this book meant so much to me. And Ram Dass said to him, what are you doing after this? I mean, there's thousands of people there, right? He says, what are you doing after this? And he said, well, nothing. And so they went to dinner. And so they became lifelong friends. And then Ram Dass was teaching on Lama Mountain in New Mexico, where he wrote Be Here Now. And so my brother and I and some friends and maybe 100, 200 other people would meet on Lama Mountain for a week's worth of lectures and talks and meditation and being up on this gorgeous mountain. And so, I've read his work over the years,
I just recently read his. I'm rereading his autobiography. I guess is it autobiography? It's like he wrote it with his buddy. I can't remember his name, but biography. Being Ram Dass, and he's so brave, this guy, to write this, right? Like he writes about everything in his life, and he doesn't hold any, I don't know if he holds anything back, but he basically puts everything out there, in my opinion. His sexuality, his his struggles, his family, the guru, his struggles when he had his I think it was his stroke or seizure or something like that.
Yeah, he had a severe seizure, and that very day, my brother and I were visiting my mom in Cincinnati, and my brother was one of the first people, so I was there too, who found out about his stroke.
Man, have you read his biography yet? I don't know if you read it yet.
I have not read that particular one, but
you have to put it buy it right now on Amazon. Buy it.
Okay, all right, done.
Because it talks about.
I think that's afterwards. A newer book, because I have lots of recordings by him.
Well, it's on Audible too. I listened to it on Audible, but I love that because I feel like I connect more so with that. But it talks about like him sitting in the hospital bed, like that's when he, was struggling because he was like his guru, who I can never say his name,
named Karoli Baba.
Yeah.
Maharaji.
He was struggling because he was like, how could this happen? Right. Like, he was struggling, like, how could it, why would you do this? Or why would you let this happen? And it was like, he let the ego get him there for a little bit. And he had to, he had to go through his own journey, and it's beautifully written, and I love it. And because it shows that he's human, right? Like everybody puts Ram Dass on this high pedestal, but they forget the man, they forget that. And people do that all the time with beliefs and these dogmas. And it's like, the thing that I find peace in is like, a lot of the teachings, and like with Ram Dass, like he was showing us what we can do, what we can do, the things that he does, we got to find that for ourselves, like what you're talking about with that space inside of us. Like there's this pure thing inside of us. What is it? Shakespeare said it, and the Oracle Delphi, however you say it, know thyself, right? I'm in the way that I'm finding myself, knowing myself is through meditation. And what eludes me some days, I go to the well and it's dry. Sometimes I go to the well and it's a plethora of thirst quenching, soul quenching stuff, like messages that I need to hear, ideas that I need to hear, love that I need to feel. And that's how, like you connect with that. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I'm just going with the flow right now, but it feels like it feels good.
Yeah, you are making sense to me. So there's two of us now. And I guess, but these are the teachings, and what you're learning, what we're all learning, is it's about putting those teachings into practice.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the sit and creating the time and holding it as important.
Mm-hmm. So what are you doing now? Like, what are you up to?
Well, I have, I'm writing the ups and downs of life with everyone else. And I have been getting into Yoga Nidra more and more, especially with the release of my newest book. So I've been doing a lot of teaching around that. And I've been teaching on Zoom and online. This week, I taught my first in-person class, which was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
First in person. Well, let's put it this way. I taught in person for decades, but this was the first in-person class in quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Where do you have like a yoga facility? Where do you have classes at?
I like community teaching the best rather than being in a studio. And so I'm teaching at a community center in our township because people are busy, and 10 extra minutes or 30 extra minutes on the road makes a difference. So I would rather be in people's neighborhoods. And while it's nice to teach in a studio with all the atmosphere and the sound system and all of that, it's also can be intimidating as well. Like, oh, what am I supposed to wear? And look how everybody looks, and I don't fit in. So I ran multi-million-dollar wellness centers as part of my professional career. And I'm at the point now where I just give me a room in a community center, or I teach at the spiritual center as well, for people who find me and are looking for what I have.
I'm looking for what you got. You got a graduate degree from Virginia Tech in counseling, so you're a psychology major.
Yep.
Look at you. I'm in psychology right now. I'm going back to school for psychology. I'm thinking about pursuing, after I get my undergrad, positive psychology, which is, it's just so interesting to me. Like, I don't know if you heard of Life University or not. So it's like traditionally a chiropractic school where Joe Dispenza went, but they have an
No,
online.
I know Joe.
You know Joe.
Well, he and I were on some programs together, so I know him that way.
Okay. See, just throwing the names out there, like hanging out with Ram Dass, hanging out with Dr. Joe Dispenza.
I told you I've been around a while. And I have had lots of
So who else?
wonderful opportunities coming my way.
Who else have you taught with, and who else? Who else do you know? The Dalai Lama.
Now, I know Trey.
Yeah, that was less exciting. That was definitely less exciting. Let's see. Yeah. So going back, positive psychology. It's like I've watched a couple of what's his face, the guy at Penn. He's like, I don't know, him and Mika Csikszentmihalyi are like the founding fathers of positive psychology. And I misplaced it somewhere. I think I might have it, but he has this acronym. I think it's PERMA, and it stands for the P is positive psychology, well-being. E stands for engagement and flow. R, relationships. M, meaning, and A, accomplishments. And basically, you're trying to find your authentic happiness, and it helps people. And I'm all about that. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going after positive psychology. If I have to get my graduate degree in that at Life University, where your best friend Joe Dispenza went, I'm going to do that.
Go do it.
Yeah. I mean, I love talking to, people like yourself with some backgrounds in psychology, because you have to relate to this. Like, the more that I become more spiritual, and then I go to class and they're trying to turn me into a scientist. So like, their definition of intuition and my definition of intuition are totally different, right? Like, I don't know if you find that for yourself or not.
I think there's a blend and a balance between science and spirituality. And
well, what's your definition of intuition?
Well, intuition is a heartfelt knowing that just comes through. And as I pointed out with Yoga Nidra, it helps that intuition come through, that guidance.
I love your definition. I love your definition. You know, their definition in the book that I just got at school, common sense. They say common sense is tuition. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not common sense. Intuition is a deeper knowing, a deeper meaning to the individual. It's very subjective. It's not anything common about it. So like I have, they're trying to turn me into a scientist. They want me to look at the
truth. It's one's own inner truth, and to tap into that for that type of guidance. But what I'm finding fascinating is yoga and meditation and practices like that go back thousands and thousands of years. And now the scientists are explaining scientifically the kinds of things that these wisdom teachings have been sharing with us for centuries and centuries and centuries. And so that's an entryway for some people to become more interested in what we're talking about.
Like science now is like, for psychology, they're finding new ways, new modalities for psychedelics, right? Like what Ram Dass was about. And now it's not really, it's starting to become mainstream. You're seeing it more so, especially with like ayahuasca, and you're seeing things with, MAPS, Johns Hopkins, treating PTSD, addictions, alcoholism, drug addictions using psilocybin or MDMA. And you're seeing it in a controlled setting, using it as a therapy tool, and you're seeing great results from that. And like MAPS, I don't know where they're at with their clinical trials, but I know that they're successful in their data, right? Like their data suggests that 60% of the patients that are in the third clinical trials are showing are not having or not showing any symptoms of PTSD after the third clinical trials, which is huge. But I think science is come a long way. I still believe that the paradigm has to shift because it's based on old materialism, old Newtonian physics, right? Like I don't know what that looks like, but we need to incorporate more. Like who talks about this? Bruce Lipton talks about this.
Bruce Lipton.
Yeah, about the paradigm, right? The quantum mechanics, quantum physics. You know, it's stacked, right? Like in order to change this, the pyramid has to change. And I think at the bottom of the pyramid is physics, maybe, or mathematics is the base, and then everything else. But in order for psychology to change, everything else is going to have to change before it. And I don't see that happening. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like,
Well, I think
he even says like quantum biology, quantum. Like if you look at biology, what we think of it as today actually went to like the quantum level. Even like psychology, like the beliefs now, epigenetics. If like that was the basis of our research, if that was the base, like if all of these scientific journals and literature reviews like focused more so on the quantum and like what everyone's researching today, like how different would psychology be? Like will we be more geared towards positive psychology and trying to, instead of treating the aftermath of a disease, like focus on, you know, the things in our lives that we can do more effectively to not have it at all. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you change the paradigm, like I don't know, I kind of question that a little bit. I think like meditation plays a big part in that too, in that change in that paradigm, like right, finding that source of self that you were talking about and applying it to the sciences instead of saying, oh, well, I can't hold the soul, I can't measure the soul, I can't empirically test the soul. Like that shouldn't be the goal. You know, I understand where you're coming from, right? You want to be able to have observations, you know, experience the knowing in that experience to be able to measure things. But it's like the way that science is evolving now and the way that quantum physics is unfolding, like our realities are totally different than what we used to think. I don't know.
Yeah, it takes a long time to integrate that new thinking into what we've been taught for all these years.
Yeah, and people argue, they say it is changing, like science is changing. I think it is slowly changing. I mean, we're talking about epigenetics now than, you know, 30 years ago. Bruce Lipton, you know, couldn't even go to a conference and talk about it. Now he's, you know, he's a rock star in that. Joe Dispenza, same thing. He's talking about, you know, the mind and body and brain and heart coherence and the miracles that they've experienced over there. And what else? Like the quantum field, you know, there's so much information about the quantum field. I don't know.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is exciting. I'm just going on tangents. I'm just kind of like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, and you're at a place where you can be part of the forerunner and do some of the, you know, educate yourself more to be able to educate others more.
Yeah.
And to be part of that change.
Come on, Julie, let's go. Me and you. We're gonna research the quantum field. Lynn McTaggart, right? Like she's doing that. Have you read her books? The Power of Eight. So get this, right? So the power of eight is phenomenal, right? I won't go into much in the backstory, but she has limited it down to 8 people, and these 8 people, they will each week they'll have a prayer group or an intention group. They'll set an intention for something or someone. It could be anything. It could be world peace or peace in a war-torn zone like Afghanistan or whatever. They set the intentions, and they for 10 minutes, they'll really just visualize. They'll say things. They'll chant. They'll I want Trey Downs or Julie Lusk to heal from this disease in all ways, in all shapes, and be completely healed of it. And they'll keep saying things like this, and over time, these individuals that they're doing this for, setting these intentions, are healing from this. But here's the catch. Not only are the people that they're setting intentions for healing, but the group is receiving benefits from this as well on a whole different level. Like their lives are changing, like things are happening to them, like in a positive aspect. And in her book, Power of Eight, she talks about all the case studies that she set up, and it's phenomenal. On our website, every Sunday at 1:30, they'll have like 2 people with their photos up on the website, and everyone who's on the website at 1:30 says an intention for this person, and it helps, extremely well. So yeah, I would, for, someone who has that background, right? Like who's curious about that, I think that'd be a great, resource for you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Intention is an interesting thing we work with in Yoga Nidra also. We call it sankalpa, and it's like your true vow. And the way, we want to change, it's like starting tomorrow, starting now. I want this and I need that and the other thing. And the thinking and the research is, as hard as we want to make that change, we're in a brainwave state that just isn't receptive to it. It's the beta brainwave state. And where our conditioning and all these kinds of things hold us back. And, what you're talking about is intention and visualization. And when we use the Yoga Nidra process, it takes us into it takes you through all the brainwave states of beta, alpha, theta, and delta, but you're still awake and aware during that. And when you get to the delta brainwave state, your consciousness, your body, mind, and spirit is able to make change. And so amazing things happen. And it's taught just to stay with one intention, in this case, because multitasking doesn't help even with this. And if you pick out a quality that comes from your own intuition, it comes from your own deeper self, all these other qualities start to follow and lives start to change. It's really a great tool. And something else you said reminded me, and you could probably find this somewhere, but there are groups of people, I think it was in Washington, D.C., this was many years ago, where they would do a collective meditation. Have you heard about this, Trey?
Mm-mm.
And yeah, given a chance, I could look it up and find it, or maybe you can, or some of your listeners can. But what happened is that what they found is that crime rates went down and all kinds of things happen as these larger groups of people would meditate.
So kind of the same concept, right? Of like connecting with the field and the oneness, and like putting that energy out there and letting it be that force. Like I never really thought about that for myself. Like, right, as you change, you let off this certain vibration, right? Like the more that you take better care of your body, meditate, maybe some physical activity, yoga, and as you change your perspective, maybe your energy is changing, right? Like you are energy, and as you work on yourself and you be more positive, and you just, obviously you're going to radiate different energy, like a more positive energy that affects your environment, right? And so like me being around you, and like I could tell, like I like being around Julie. Like she's funny, she's she's a great person, she's teaching me about meditation, and I see her out in public and I go up and have a conversation with you, and maybe I'm having a down day, but I'm around Julie and she's like picking me up because of her energy, right? Like you think about doing that as a mass of people, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, what that can do for an environment. And then it's like contagious, because then they take it and they break off and they go, and then they take it with them wherever they're at. It might die down at some point, but if you have a routine, like you keep building that back up, and that's how you create change.
Right. And it's nice to have the support of other people too, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When making changes and when, meditating and or whatever your chosen path is,
Well, that's
or
the thing.
whatever path chooses you.
That's the thing, right? Like you find, like, I don't know. Did your path choose you?
Yes. Oh my God. So let's backtrack a little bit. Back to those college days. I just wanted to be in college, and I just really love being away from home and being around people my age and all of that. But I also wanted to get an education too. And I was trying to pay my own way. Well, I had to pay my own way. So I had this, I went to this English class, my first English class, and I got an F minus minus.
Why?
It's just like, how do you get an F minus minus? Well, you're talking to, so it's like, well, writing, that's off the chart, that's not going to be my thing. I didn't end up, it's funny, I didn't end up even declaring my major till the second semester of my senior year. And I ended up being college dean for career planning and placement. Isn't that funny? But anyway, I never thought I'd end up being a writer. And you won't believe this. I just so happened to have 6 books and they all came to me. I was asked, with each one of them has a story that is amazing, how I was asked to write and learn these things. And so here I am, a writer. Even this latest book, well, actually the second, I'll tell you the story of this one, because I was teaching in the Bahamas. Poor me, right?
Ugh, terrible place.
I know. And there were people who were getting their Vedic astrology charts read by these experts on it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't know. But they were very impressed with this person and encouraged me to do it. And so I did. And he started telling me things that my parents, he was like, he had interviewed my parents. Well, my parents are all in heaven, so I don't know about that. But anyway, he said that this was in February, and he said in April, everything was going to be lining up. That was the same as when I was there at birth. And so it would be a great opportunity to learn and teach and write and expand and focus and all these kinds of things. And I was like, I'd already been doing a lot of that. It's like, how can I refine that? And he says, well, Yoga Nidra, that would be a good fit for who you are and where you are and things like that. And I knew some about it for sure. And so 3 months later, I get this email out of the blue that says, will you please write a Yoga Nidra book for us? Go figure. This is a company, Trey, that gets 800 proposals a year, and they publish 50, 60 books. And they're like, will you write this book for us? Like, well, all right now.
What do you feel when this stuff happens? Like, what do you feel when you got that email? What did you feel?
Grateful, shocked, amazed, and happy. Because, one of my underlying, I don't know what the word is, themes, goals, whatever. But what it is my prayer is help me help others.
Hmm.
Help me help others. And so it's like, well, I guess help me. Give me the help I need as
Mhm.
I'm helping others. So it's like, well, it looks like I'm going to be writing another book.
So the publisher, the company reaches out to you, email, can you write this book? You're shocked, excited too, right? Like, yeah, that's all.
Yeah,
Well, excited for two
absolutely.
reasons, right? Like two reasons. One, this guy told you would be doing this, and two, that they want you to write this book. So, like, what else did the guy tell you?
Well,
What did he tell
that's
you
all.
that? What did he say to you that only your parents would know?
Well, he just knew things about, my background and um, personality characteristics, that kind of thing, and what my interests would be and what I focused on and those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, I've done that, who knew I was going to write another book, and there it is. And then one night, a couple of years ago, I woke up way too early. And you know how it is, like, should I get up? I don't really want to get up, but maybe I should get up. Maybe I could go back to sleep. Well, this morning was like, I just know I'm not going to go back to sleep. And so I said, I know, I'll do Yoga Nidra, because it takes you through those brainwave states and gets you so relaxed. 1 hour of practice is equivalent to 4 hours of sleep. It's very replenishing, very replenishing. And as we talked about earlier in our conversation, it helps you with life direction and intuition. So during this Yoga Nidra experience that I was having, I got this whole idea for this newest book. It all just like poured in, just like right now. And so I got up, how it was going to be written, who was going to be in it, what the focus was going to be, how it could be organized. And so I got up, started writing it in my journal. Well, next thing you know, by noon, I was on my computer. I had a whole book proposal and sent it off. And within months, I mean, this is a longer story than this. It's kind of cool, but real cool.
It's real cool.
But
what are you talking about?
and within all these other things happened too. But within a couple of months, I had an amazing publisher, and this has opened my door to having this conversation with you now.
Look at that. Look at that.
I know.
Oh, all from yoga, huh? I mean, so you, during this practice, I read some of your book. You lay on your back, right? I love that part. Like, you can lay on your head, you know what I mean? Love that. So you lay on your back and you listen to things, right? Like, you can explain that some more too. Like, so when you're laying on your back, does it matter if it's morning or night?
Well, if you practice in the morning, typically what happens is it gives you the inspiration and energy for the day. It sets you up for having a great day. If you practice at night, it sheds all that tension and stress that you have had, so you can go into a sound sleep and really, really benefit from sleep. Yeah, there you go. So you can really benefit from sleep, because we all know that when we're sleeping, our thoughts and emotions can stay awake, right? And so this helps relax all of that, so you do have a sound sleep. And if you should wake up, which is typical, our body has circadian rhythms, and it's typical for people to wake up at 3 a.m. We fight it. We think there's something wrong with us, but it's part of our circadian rhythm. And so it gives you techniques to drift on back to sleep. with whatever it is that you want. And there's nothing like the experience of it. I just hear all the time from folks about the benefits that are also, as you can see in the book, documented by studies and science and things like that. I love that.
Oh, I love it too. I love how this, so how would one, all right, so this is how it is, right? So living with depression, or, lifting depression and energy with life force yoga, this is 30 minutes and tells you process, the stages, and then the process and techniques. So preparation, settling in, and then laying down, and then it gives you the stages. And then let's see here.
So you see that chart there, Trey, that you're looking at?
Yeah.
Those show you the stages on the left-hand side of what Yoga Nidra is. And on the right-hand side shows you the techniques that this particular meditation uses. And so what I love about it is there is a reliable process and sequence that takes people, whether they've practiced yoga or meditation or anything like that ever before, no matter what their age, into that timeless sweet space of the supreme self. It does. It just does. And so what we have in this book is, as we talked about, you relax, you get into your position of lying down or in a comfortable chair. You set your intention, and then you relax physically. And there's many ways of doing that, which are represented in the book. You can do squeeze and release. You can do a map of awareness based on the body, mind, brain connection. And that relaxes you physically. And so tons of benefits happen there for your heart, your blood pressure, your glucose, your tension, your pain levels, trauma, all kinds of stuff. And then from there, we go into a deeper layer of breath. So there's a lot of different ways of using your breath for different effects. And then mentally, there are, and so each of the ones in here use different techniques, but they use that same formula. Does that make sense?
Yeah. My
And
question,
then you're
is,
yeah.
Sorry. Do you have recordings of these, right? Like, do you have recordings for each of these chapters, or do you encourage the reader to record it?
That's funny you should ask. Because just today, somebody contacted me and said, let's do an audio book based on your book. So here we go again.
Well, I just love
the way this book. All right. So this book, the book earlier, does have downloadable. There's 3 of them in this one, and they can be downloaded and listened to. And then this book, what I've been doing is teaching it on Zoom and providing recordings from it. And our next stage is to formally do it in audio. And so a way an individual would do it would be to read through it and do it themselves, or record it themselves, or do it with some friends. There's lots of ways of doing it, but that is the next stage. And funny you should ask. I'm gonna be the
voiceover for it, because here I'm gonna read one little paragraph here. For welcoming and witnessing waves of joy with awareness of opposites bliss. It goes like this. From this earthbound heaviness, a lightness arising, welcoming a wave of joy, body, light, and floating, perhaps a wave of love for no reason, no story, joy for no reason, body light, no words necessary, allowing the tide of joy to rise and recede, waves of bliss to wash over and through joy. Like that just, I'm like, yeah, I like that. Good stuff.
And is that one Amy Weintraub's? The depression, the one for lifting? Which is the title on that
Yes,
one?
Amy.
All right. You might want to talk with her. She is the author of Lifting. She's an amazing woman. She's written all these books on how to use yoga to help with depression and mood management.
Oh, I didn't know
And
there was
her
different
life is
authors in
that
here.
story. Oh yeah, that's what that whole idea that came to me at that morning was that so far with Yoga Nidra, it goes way, way, way back in history and into the tradition, but it's only just now starting to get activated using modern techniques of a reliable way of doing it. And so what I did is I collected my own, 12 of my own, but I invited 12 of the world's experts in Yoga Nidra to provide a meditation on their specialty. So we've got Amy Weintraub on helping with depression, and we've got who else? Mark Halprin on helping with healing from the California.
Swami. I can't even, I'm sorry, I can't say it. What is Swami?
We have two
There's Swati?
Swamis in there. Swami Satchidananda,
Yeah.
and he is from Integral Yoga and an amazing, amazing man. And just about his writings, get a load of this, his writings are deemed so important that they are housed at the University of Virginia in the same room that Thomas Jefferson's writings are. They're deemed that valuable. And this meditation had been recorded by him a long, long time ago. And it was one of my initial entries into it, but it had never been written out until this book. This is the first time it is in writing.
Oh.
And now people can really benefit from it that much more.
Who else do you know, Julie?
Oh,
You know everybody. Goodness gracious.
Yeah,
Julie Lusk in the
well.
house with her knowledge
Oh,
and
give
connections.
me. Yeah. Well, so that's what makes this so special is we've got so many different perspectives, whether it's helping, like the one person, Robin Carnes, does this with people from the Department of Defense, with people in trauma. Well, this is a tier 1 help for the military. Yoga Nidra is. She's in my book. How about that? But that's not something you would use with a teenager or a child. So we have things for them as well. So it was really fun putting this book together.
That's awesome.
And everybody was so eager and willing to help.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to record some of these on my own and
maybe we think about doing another one of these some night where we just do meditation, so you can have one on your channel. And I am doing a webinar in a couple of weeks for East West Bookshop, and then every Monday night I teach them and lead them as well.
How long are they?
The classes are generally an hour and 15 minutes, but the practice itself, because we start off with a discussion, a little lesson. I love the community feel so that people have more togetherness, I guess, especially in these days where we haven't been having our fair share of it. And then the practice itself is usually about 30 minutes. And then afterwards, I say, look, if you're in the zone and you want to tune out, go for it. If you want to stay around for a discussion or Q&A, please do so. And then that's the part, the practice itself is the part that's recorded. Says, we don't want the discussion because,
Sure.
personal things come up.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what we'll do, Julie, is I will get you over the calendar that I have. And then the next time we record, it'll be just this meditation, like, you know what I mean? Like a session.
Love to do that.
And then we'll do it together and then share it with other people.
Right.
What are your thoughts? You think that we can do that?
I would love that because that's, you can describe all day long what an orange tastes like, but until you taste it, it's just not, you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So until you really experience something like this, you won't know for yourself.
I want to know.
I got in trouble last week.
What'd you do?
Well, I was talking with this person that I know is a psychoanalyst,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like this world-renowned guy. And
Who is it, Julie?
we got to talking about, I'll protect his confidentiality in all seriousness. But he's like, will that help with sleep? And I'm like, yeah. He says, well, I need it big time. He's got a lot of back pain, so it's hard for him to sleep. And I don't know what else is going on. And I was like, okay, listen to this recording. And and he said, I've gone to 4 different sleep studies. I've tried every single medication that's out there, every technique I can think of. Nothing works. And so the next day he says, I kept falling asleep. I wanted to know. And the next night he said, the first night he said he did fall asleep. And the next night he wanted to find out what we were doing to cause him to fall asleep, but he kept falling asleep and he couldn't figure out why this was working so well.
That's funny.
Isn't
do you have
that
meditation? Funny? Yeah. Do you have meditations to touch that higher self, to touch that superior self, or
they all do.
Or be one with it?
They all do, because that's the goal of every single one of them, is because when we go through those phases, it leaves you in that place of oneness and unconditional joy and peace. And that's really what they all do.
Can you send me a recording or something?
Sure. Love to.
So I can practice it, and then we'll set something up and we'll do an episode of it.
You're on.
I love it. Julie Lusk, thank you so much for joining the show. How can people connect with you?
Well, you can go to my website. It's julielusk.com. And there are lots of articles and information about the classes that I teach on locally, which for me is Cincinnati, and nationally and internationally. Actually, Trey, I'll be teaching in Virginia soon. That's not too far from Baltimore. And that's also the headquarters of Swami Satchidananda. He's passed on now, but that's his, and that's somebody we have talked about tonight. And so that's one way, but my things are also available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and just drop me a line. I'm a friendly kind of person. I like to be in touch and connect with people. So don't be shy.
I love Julie Lusk. She's awesome. Thank you, Julie, for joining the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.